Curse of the Kichai Shaman. Chapter 19. Helene works her magic. After the attempted shooting of her husband David, Helene could not just sit around and wait. She felt compelled to do something. Starting on October 10th, one day after the shooting attempt at the Washington on the Brazos historical site, she decided to work some magic. David was home as work had been canceled because the whole site was a crime scene, and she asked him if she could use his construction tools for a few days. Of course, David let her, and he reminded her as to where the keys to his toolboxes were. She was off work for the next 2 months, but after that had a job in Central Texas refurbishing a power plant. She sat down at her desk with a scale ruler, a tape measure, and a piece of printer paper and started drawing her plan. It took most of the day, but in the end she had a plan and a list of supplies she would need. She spent the rest of the day working with her guard dog Bear, the expertly trained Malinois. The next morning, David had left to talk with the police and then returned to work for the rest of the week. After he was gone, she left Bear with the renters, and Helene went out in her car and first stopped at Lowe's home improvement store. She bought 4 8-foot dowel rods that were 1 1/4 inches thick. These are the types of wooden dowel rods used to hang clothes hangers in closets. She got a pack of 6 rolls of duct tape, 3 pairs of work gloves, a plastic bucket, a pack of 6 rolls of black electrical tape, and 6 large bobbins of thick twine. She then left Lowe's and went to Austin Creative Reuse and got 24 yards of burlap fabric, some black RIT dye powder, and a box of old wire coat hangers. Then she went to Uptown Cheapskate and got 2 men's blue jean jackets, 2 pairs of men's blue jeans, and 2 men's leather belts. She went back home, got Bear from the renters, and took all her supplies into David's workshop. She put an electric power drill battery on the charger. She left the supplies but grabbed a scrap piece of wood that was little more than a stick and took the plastic bucket to her kitchen. She took out 2 large pans and filled them 3/4 full of water and put them on the stovetop burner to heat. She got them hot but not boiling and put the hot water in the new 5-gallon plastic bucket and carried it out to the yard. She went and got the black RIT dye, the work gloves, the 2 jean jackets, the 2 pairs of jean pants, and the stick. She threw the jackets, pants, and gloves on the grass in the yard and got the water hose and wet them. She put the black RIT dye powder into the bucket of hot water and stirred it vigorously with the stick. Then she added the wet clothes and stirred them up for a while, then let it sit for about 30 minutes. She then dumped the bucket out in the grass, washed all the remaining dye out of the bucket with the water hose, put the dyed wet clothes back in the bucket, and added clean water to rinse them. She rinsed them like this 3 times until the water was clear. She wrung the excess water out of the clothes. Then she went into her laundry room and put the clothes into the dryer and set the timer for an hour. Then she went back into David's workshop. Helene took a piece of scrap 3/4-inch plywood and got out David's jigsaw. She went to David's gun safe, took his gun, and traced it on a sheet of printer paper. She cut out the drawing with scissors and took it back to David's shop. She then traced the outline of the gun onto the plywood 3 times so that she had 3 gun shapes drawn. She cut them out with the jigsaw. She took the 3 plywood gun shapes and wrapped them completely with black electrical tape until none of the plywood showed and the wooden gun shapes were totally black. She then put the 4 8-foot closet dowel rods across a pair of sawhorses. She took the tape measure she had earlier and began to measure and mark the 1.25 inch thick dowels at various lengths. She then took the jigsaw and cut the dowels where the marks were. She ended up with 2 at 4 foot, 2 at 20 inches, 13 at 16 inches, and 4 at 10 inches. She took the battery off the charger, put it into the battery-powered electric drill, took a 1/4 inch drill bit, put it into the electric drill, and began to drill holes about 4 inches from the ends and 1 inch from the ends of most of the dowel rods that she had cut. She then took 16 wire coat hangers and with pliers straightened them. Then she took one of the dowels with 2 holes drilled into the end, put a straightened coat hanger through the hole 4 inches from the end until she had it halfway with equal lengths of coat hanger coming out either side of the hole. She then started wrapping both ends of the coat hanger around the dowel, heading toward the hole 1 inch from the end. After a few wraps, she put the 2 ends through the hole 1 inch from the end and used the pliers to pull it through tightly. She then took another dowel with the holes drilled in it at 4 inches and 1 inch from the end, respectively. She put the ends of the coat hanger that was wrapped on the one dowel through the hole 1 inch from the end of the second dowel. She left 2 inches of wire between the dowels and started wrapping the coat hanger around the second dowel, then ended it by putting the wire through the hole at 4 inches. She took a small pair of bolt cutters and cut the coat hanger wire so that the wire ended inside the hole at 4 inches up the dowel. Then she wrapped the joint with a lot of duct tape so that none of the wire was exposed and it was well padded. She did this to the next set of dowels and then repeated the process 16 times until she had 2 man-shaped stick skeletons. She then began to carefully wrap tightly the burlap cloth around the skeletons to give them a body. She used a little duct tape to hold the wrapped cloth at first, but went back over the whole thing with lengths of twine that were put on the wrapped cloth in the middle of the length of twine, and tied in a knot as each end came over the top and then tied on the bottom when it wrapped back under in a crisscross pattern that would not come unwound if the twine broke at any place. This took most of her day. She stopped and made herself a sandwich and fed Bear. After she and Bear had eaten, she went out and worked with Bear the rest of the day until nightfall, going over all his various commands. The next morning, she started bright and early. She went to the workshop and found a thick 4-foot-long 2x12-inch board. She got out a skill saw and cut it in half so that she had two 2-foot pieces of 2x12-inch board. She found a hole saw bit for the drill that was 1¼ inch in diameter. She drilled holes right in the center of each of these thick boards. She took the 2 4-foot lengths of dowel and put each into the hole at the bottom of the 2 boards, making 2 stands that stood the dowel upright. She fastened each dowel into the hole with a drywall screw, then took the 2 leather belts she had bought, punched a hole in the center of them, and attached them to the top of the wooden dowel with a drywall screw. Then she wrapped the attachment area with a good amount of duct tape. She had made 2 stands with a belt at the top of them, 4 foot tall. She went and got the clothes she had dyed out of the dryer. She took them to her office and got out a sewing kit. She stuffed bits of burlap into the work gloves to fill out the hand and fingers, then sewed them onto the sleeves of the jackets with the hands carefully placed in the right orientation. She used strong waxed nylon thread. She took the sewing kit and clothes down to the workshop and put the burlap and twine dummies into the jacket and pants and sewed everything together with the tough nylon thread. She rolled 2 bundles of burlap into head shapes and wrapped it with duct tape, then sewed it onto the top of the dummies. She then belted the dummies onto their stands and stood them up in the workshop. She took black tape and loosely taped a gun in the hand of each dummy. One in the right hand of one dummy and one in the left hand of the other dummy. Because the joints of the dummies were made with thick coat hanger wire, they were posable. She then made one more thing. She took the last 16-inch dowel, wrapped the end with burlap, and sewed a stuffed glove onto it. Then duct taped the whole thing. Then taped one of the wooden guns in the hand so that she had a dummy arm holding a gun with enough dowel sticking out so she could use it like a handle. It was mid-afternoon of the 12th of October on a Thursday, and like she did every day, she spent time working with her guard dog Bear. She took him outside in the yard and took his reward ball and the dummy arm with a fake gun in its hand. She threw his ball to him, and he grabbed it. She said, "Guter Hund," good dog. Then she held out the fake arm and said, "Packen," the command to bite, and he bit the center of the arm. She then said, "Aus," which is the command to let go. She then repeated the command to bite, saying, "Packen." Bear bit at the base of the hand. She said, "Aus," then "Guter Hund," and threw him his reward ball. She kept repeating this drill. If he bit the arm, he did not get the reward ball. If he bit the gun, he did not get the reward ball. When he bit the base of the hand holding the gun, he got the reward ball. By the end of that day, he was biting at the base of the hand that held the gun every time she said, "Packen." That night, as every night before she went to bed, she put Bear in his crate by saying, "Zwinger." He would go in the crate, which had his bed inside of it, and go to sleep. She did not have to close the door to it because he was so well trained. The next morning, she started early with Bear. She used the fake arm at first, and Bear remembered to bite the base of the hand, so he continually got the reward ball every time. She took Bear to her room and made him go in his crate. She then went down to the workshop and got the posable dummies. She put one in the kitchen and posed it with the gun hand out. She put the other in the yard and posed it with the gun hand out. She then got Bear and took him downstairs to the backyard. When she came into sight of the dummy, she said, "Packen." Without a sound, Bear lunged at the dummy and bit the gun arm in the middle. She said, "Aus," and he let go. He had knocked the dummy over, so Helene stood it back up and took him back in the house again. And when they walked out and came into view of the dummy, she said, "Packen," and Bear silently lunged forward and bit the base of the hand, dragging the dummy to the ground. Helene said, "Aus, guter Hund," and threw him the reward ball. She continued training him like this for about an hour and a half, then took him into the kitchen. When they came in sight of the dummy, she said, "Packen." He silently lunged and grabbed the base of the hand holding the gun, dragging the dummy to the ground and holding onto the hand. She said, "Aus, guter Hund," and threw him the reward ball. That night was Friday, October 13th, and David came home for the weekend and got there about 7:20 p.m. that evening. Helene met him out in the driveway and warned him about the bite dummies so that he would not get startled by them. The next morning, Helene showed David Bear's new trick, and David was impressed. Training with the bite dummies became an everyday thing for Helene and Bear. She trained him to be fast and silent. She would put the gun in different hands and sometimes have the gun arm raised and sometimes have it down. Bear got so good at it that if she put the gun behind the dummy's back, he would quickly and quietly circle around the dummy and go for the gun hand. She also trained him to bite when there was no gun in either hand, so that he could be flexible in different situations. Bear, the Malinois, became the most important member of the family at this time. David and Helene could not imagine having to deal with this threat without him.